Finally back together for some NBA talk, and maybe give some legal advice because Kevin's essentially a lawyer and I do a show with lawyers. So, I feel like we are both qualified.
Justin, my first piece of legal advice is here on the Driving Dish NBA podcast. Don't listen to a word he just said because neither of us are attorneys, and please go talk to a real attorney if you need legal advice. And give me a year. In a year, I can maybe give you legal advice on the show. We're dangerously close to the bar exam, which is kind of starting to sink in.
Ooh, yeah. Hey, when in doubt, sue. That's my advice.
Sure. Wait, whatever works. But no, shout out to listen, you and the Farahs are rocking out every Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
We Justin and I don't always record on Saturdays. We do a lot of the time, though. We are recording on a Saturday this episode. So yeah.
You would enjoy this. We got a call last week because they're personal injury guys, so like they talk a lot of crazy car accidents and stuff like that, and I know right now their big focus is like truck accidents, but they were telling me, and we got this caller that called in, they broke their tooth on a Butterfinger and they were trying to figure out if they could sue. And, like, you could see the wheels turning on the guys. Like, they were trying to figure out, like, oh, is there a way to measure how hard a Butterfinger is supposed to be? And I was like, yeah, he just has a weak tooth and he ate a Butterfinger. I don't know what you want from me, dude.
Well, yeah. I mean, it all just depends whether it's, how intentional was it?
So
it all have a duty to you, like
it all came up because the story, and again, I don't have it up in front of me, so I'm sure I'm just getting pieces here, but there was a situation where legally either judges or a commission had to get together to decide if boneless chicken wings actually had to not have bones in them.
Yeah, the Ohio Supreme Court did that. They said that boneless wings can have part of a bone in them, which is just like...
Yeah, because the guy like ripped his throat. He had to get surgery because there was a bone in a boneless wing, and he screwed up his esophagus.
Yeah, that feels like false advertising. But again, that's what the Ohio Supreme Court said. So yeah, I mean, that could in theory get appealed to the high Supreme Court. So
because we were talking about that. It's kind of fun to like go like if you get a fish fillet, you're under the assumption there's not going to be bone in it, but there are sometimes like a rib bone in it. But again, it's not saying boneless fish fillet,
right? Yeah, it doesn't advertise itself as that. I mean, I took products liability last semester as one of my classes, and the OG basically products liability case between like a manufacturer like that, where it was like the way Butterfinger would be. I think Nestle makes Butterfinger, right? I'm pretty sure.
No, I forget. It was a name I had. I thought it was Mars, but it wasn't one that I had heard.
Oh, it's not Mars or Nestle?
No, I don't think so. Hold on. Let me see.
Wow. Okay. Well, while you look that up, it's called Escola, and it basically involved. It was when Coke was back in glass bottles, right? And so a woman had she was going to put the glass bottles in the fridge, and one of them just blew up in her hand, and so obviously it caused all sorts of like, nerve issues, a gash in her hand and stuff like that. And so, they argued over whether Coke, because she sued Coke, not just the driver. Coke tried to argue that, hey, like it was in the driver's hands. What are we supposed to do? It's not our manufacturing fault. But it basically set up where it's like, look, you can't put something in commerce that could potentially be unsafe. And like, if it's tied to you, there is a little bit of,
it does come back. Like there's what do they call it? The assumption of
risk.
Risk. That's it. Yeah.
Assumption of risk.
So Butterfinger is under the Ferrero Food Service Company.
Oh, okay. So like they do like Ferrero Rocher and stuff.
Yeah, Nutella, Butterfinger, Babe Ruth, Crunch, Keebler, all them elves working for these guys. Murray,
wow.
Mother. Yeah, they got a good amount here. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Interesting. I learned something today. How about that? And how about y'all getting a little law school life and what my last 2 years of existence have been here on the Driving Dish NBA podcast? I'm done in a year. Like I graduate next May is when I'm done, and then I go right into bar. Bar is July of 2025. Like that's
not to put one of my buddies on blast, but. How would you, in your mind, feel if you got to this point? You got 1 year left, and you're like, "Know what? Nah, this ain't for me," and you dropped out.
I would literally be I could win $1 billion and I would finish it because
Huh.
I've just like these first 2 years. Like, look, there's just it is law school is exactly what it's advertised to be. You have to work all the time. Like
Yep.
there's no faking it. There's no shortcuts. Like, there's tips and tricks for sure. And I'm not acting like, look, I've done this podcast the whole time I've been in law school. Like I've gone on vacation. Like I have a life. It's not completely like I'm not in prison or something like
But it's a lot of work.
yeah, but you got to just
Yeah.
know what you're getting yourself into.
I had a buddy that got to his last year law school and said, "Nah, this ain't for me," and dropped out.
That's so bizarre. And look, I get it. If it's not for you, like you are still ahead of the bar, like get out, save yourself some money. Don't go the third year. But it's like, I'm just surprised that because the first 2 years are so intense, like the third year is kind of viewed as the easier year. Like most
Yeah,
of
well,
the time
that's
you're
what
kind of
I
wrapping
assumed
up.
too. I'm like, "Bro, you already got through the hard
The
stuff. Just at
hardest
least
part.
get the paper."
Because the saying in law school is that the first year they scare you to death. The second year they work you to death, and the third year they bore you to death. That's what
Mm,
I've heard from professors, from coworkers, from students at other schools, yada yada yada. And I believe it after the first two, but I'm kind of like, I can deal with being bored after getting
bored to
worked
death
and
is
like
nice after
scared the
these 2.
first 2 years. Like I'm all that is kind of a like, look, do what makes you happy. I'm not gonna hate on any life decision, but well, I
Mhm.
might hate on some, but like not that one. It's just I'm surprised having been through two that that's the time where you just decided
Yeah.
it's not for you. Like I want to get out, but
Would you hate on the life decision to retire from the NBA?
no, never from the NBA. And I mean, not especially if I had a longer career here like Gordon Hayward did. I mean, 14 seasons from 2010 to just this past year, 2023, 2024. Obviously, it's a bit of a mixed bag, right? Because like Gordon Hayward is an all-star, definitely an objectively successful career. That all-star appearance coming in 2016, 2017 with Utah. Um, but I think everybody just goes to that. Like, there's that clear point with the injury, right? Like,
Yep.
he's such a success story early on in Utah. He's like one of their young pieces. He ends up going on to get that big contract from Boston. You're excited to see him play with Kyrie, and it looks like Boston is going to be. I mean, that particular year, it looked like they were going to be probably the biggest challenger to Cleveland and LeBron that season. And then just on the first night, it's over with.
Yep.
And obviously, again, he played for quite a long time after that. Like that's the thing. He was 27 when that happened. He played 8 seasons after, or I'm sorry, 7 seasons after that.
Mhm.
And so it is a little bit of a I feel like he probably is underrated in that sense where he did, stick around, but he just wasn't playing for teams that I mean, look, the end of his Boston tenure, it was just like that first year off injury. He was kind of getting back to form, only averaged 11 points. By the time he got going, even then, he only played 52 games. And then he ended up just going down to Charlotte. And once he got to Charlotte, like he was putting up numbers there, but,
Yeah,
dealt
Charlotte's actually where he had his 2 highest scoring games, like,
yeah,
ever of his career in 2021.
but just a lot of games missed.
Mhm.
I mean, after that injury season, I mean, that first year off, he played in 72 games, but he never played any higher than 52 after that
Yeah.
in the season. And so it does kind of mark you a little bit. And obviously in Charlotte, like I'm not trying to take the dig at them, but he just like wasn't really playing competitive basketball like that.
Yeah.
The shot this year, and it was interesting because like with OKC this year, like I love that signing for them at the time. Like I really liked that pickup for Gordon Hayward going to OKC at kind of the deadline. And then even afterwards in the season, like Mark Danielle was like, yeah, it's kind of my fault a little bit. Like it just didn't work out. Gordon Hayward was pretty honest about it not working out. But still, I thought of name recognition. He might, still get a shot somewhere
Mhm.
on maybe on a contending team who wants to fill out their depth. But look, if he's decided to hang it up, so be it. Obviously his career earnings wise has done really well for himself here in the NBA, like multiple triple figure million contracts. Again, one-time all-star that year with Utah. And his college game too, with going to Butler and being a part of those runs to the NCAA tournament. I know they didn't bring it home, but back-to-back years for Butler, it was pretty unheard of for a mid-major, and he was the key figure in that. So, him and Brad Stevens, like that's what put them both on the map, and then obviously reunited in Boston there. That Brad's the one who brought him in, but I said with Kyrie. He did play with Kyrie, but that initial year was with Isaiah Thomas still. I forgot they hadn't even made that deal yet because IT and Gordon Hayward were friends. Like they
Yep.
were really. I remember that video of IT reacting when they made the signing, and just it was brutal. And in terms of just the graphicness of that
Yeah.
injury, there are many in the NBA right away where I'm like it's
No.
that. I think of that. I think of Paul George and
Yep.
that Team USA scrimmage.
I think of the college.
Livingston,
I think of college. I can't remember the kid's
Kevin
name.
Ware with
Yeah, Ware.
Louisville.
That's it. Yep. Yep.
Oh, dude, that was bad. That was bad.
Mhm.
That was so bad, and it's crazy because like I remember that because Louisville won the title that year.
Mhm.
I was driving. I was driving back to Hofstra. I was on Staten Island, and I thought some really crazy thing happened because my phone blew up. So like I wasn't even watching the game, and I just like when I finally got back to Hofstra, I had just like 60 texts going, "Oh my god!" ah." And so I don't think I've ever actually watched that injury
I
live. Like
wouldn't.
I know what it. I'm good. I
It's
don't
a
need to see it.
square. His leg makes a
Yeah,
square
he
essentially.
had
Yeah.
a compound fracture. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need to see like, I believe you. I'm glad that he can walk again and play
Yeah.
basketball still. Like, that's what it really all comes down to.
Yeah.
I don't know. What about you though with Gordon Hayward? Like, what will you remember the most from his career?
Yeah, I mean, sadly, the injury I think is the first thing that people will think of when they think of him. Obviously, I picture him in a Jazz uniform. That's kind of where I remember him, which is kind of why I was surprised when you look up his career highs. He does have a career. He has a 39-point game with Utah, 39 to 38 and 37 with Utah. But his higher scoring games were Boston and Charlotte. But you know, those games being 44, he had a career high game of 15 rebounds, career high of 12 assists, and career high of 5 steals, 4 blocks in a few different games. But I was trying to think of like his NBA comparison numbers wise, like who would be in the same realm as him. And I think that will put like I don't know. I think that'll kind of give a better idea of where he is because I know a lot of people, at least with him, point to like you've already alluded to it, the potential of making it to the upper echelon of NBA
Yeah.
players, but obviously the injury just totally took
He's a
that
what
out
if.
of the cards.
He's a what if a little bit for
Yeah,
sure. Like I
yeah,
don't know that Gordon Hayward was ever going to be like a top 10 player or anything like that. But like we said, he made an all-star appearance in Utah. He garnered enough interest to get a max contract from Boston when they were trying to win.
mhm,
But you're right. Like it did just take away that momentum right there a little bit. And it's funny with Utah. I remember a lot of the when he left, there was a lot of kind of flack around that time. And I think the only reason that he probably didn't get more for it is because they got Donovan Mitchell so soon, like after essentially, that it almost like softened the blow of that a little bit. But either way, yeah, I mean, Utah and Boston is who I associate him with the most, which is kind of funny because like he played for Charlotte for a fairly long time, but again, just post injury, I unfortunately just don't think you associate that as much. Um, yeah, that's a really interesting. Like you're right. I am interested what his NBA comparison would be because he's definitely like he's nowhere near Hall of Fame or anything like that. Um, but he had an extremely long career. And has that lone all-star appearance, but like he doesn't have any awards. He got some six-man voting. He got some most improved player voting, but he never
I'm I'm curious, would you put him in comparison? I'm trying to look at their games right now, at least stats. Again, this is not like career as a whole, and maybe it's not the right person, but the first person that came to my mind to at least consider this was Eric Gordon.
I think he was better than Eric Gordon was. I feel like that's a little harsh, and I
You
like
think
Eric
so?
Gordon. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. I think Gordon Hayward, Eric Gordon's been a great role player who's had, and I'm not even knocking like Eric again,
Mhm, mhm.
length of career wise, I get it, but like Gordon was a guy like a one or two option at his peak.
That's fair. That's fair. Because, like, I mean, you again, just stats, they are fairly close. Eric Gordon's at 15.7 a game. Gordon Hayward was at 15.2. Rebounds, Gordon's got him 4. Eric's got 2 there. But then you go to assists, they're both hovering right around 3. Then you
Yeah,
look at total points, total rebounds, total assists. They're all, I mean, Eric Gordon's got a little more points. Hayward's got a little more rebounds. Assists are really close, but Hayward has more. And then you look at the percentages, it looks like Gordon's got them for the most part in percentages. They're about the same in 3-point percentage.
Yeah.
But even their best seasons are really close. Points per game, rebounds. Rebounds is really the only thing Gordon Hayward has like significant over, again, stat wise, over Eric Gordon.
It just feels like his highs are higher.
Yep.
And that's, I guess, where I'm at overall. You're right though. I don't
And not that I wanted to compare them.
Let me ponder on that. I'm gonna look through the episode. I want to do so. I got to do some more comparison there in terms of like who I would maybe match him with numbers wise.
Obviously, the first thing you can also point to what you were saying is All-Star games. Gordon Hayward was in one. Eric Gordon hasn't been in one. Gordon Hayward's been in 5 playoffs. Eric Gordon's been in 7. But seasons wise, Eric's got 16 seasons. Gordon Hayward's got 14. They've both been in there for a while. Similar in the 0 realm for championship wise, but that's not to harp on those guys for that. So I don't know. It's a very interesting one in terms of stats. I know a lot of people don't want to just only look at stats for a comparison like this, but I think it's a lot closer than we think when you look at careers. I know, it is what it is.
Yeah, but I mean, counting stats wise, I don't disagree. I think again, I just don't ever picture Eric Gordon as the number one option. Like Gordon Hayward was like Eric Gordon's peaks to me were in Houston when he was playing with Harden and those whole squads. And like, he was a huge part of that. I don't want to downplay his contributions. Like, he was definitely a key part of those squads that were making the conference finals. But I just, there was never a game where I'm like, oh man, Eric Gordon's really got to carry him today. With Gordon Hayward, I did feel that way.
Yeah, no, I agree. And interestingly enough, if you look at stats per game in NBA playoff scenarios, I know it's kind of small sample size for both those guys. Gordon Hayward really, I guess the word slips in terms of comparison to Eric Gordon's production in those spots. So
yeah, no doubt. But
very interesting.
I'm going to ponder. That is a good question. I definitely want to think on it some more there. Welcome, everybody, to the Driving Dish NBA podcast. My name is Kevin Rafuse. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Justin Cousart.
GOAT activity, USA flag.
I did see this. I think it's LeBron. It's not LeBron. Okay. I'm assuming it's referring to Simone Biles, right?
It is referring to Simone Biles, yes.
That's definitely, I mean, listen, she's on a different planet. Like, I think of, I'll get back to guessing for the tweet in a second, but like, at least in my lifetime, but I think even honestly overall, like, it's her. And then on the men's side, it's Michael Phelps in swimming, obviously. But I just look at them and I'm like, yeah, man, they're the best to do it. Like, they broke the sport. Like, she was like 12 feet high on the air on that one floor routine. Like, that's insane. I forget what KD said. He's like, I'm convinced I could throw her an alley-oop. And I'm just, which is hilarious. Cause obviously, like, she's tiny. She's like, what, 5'1"? If
very tiny. Like, you see her standing next to some of the NBA guys and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah,
like,
no, she is extremely tiny. But
by the way, not to cut you off, because you were talking about NBA and you're talking about GOATs, and I know Katie Ledecky always comes up in those conversations too. Dominant. Did you see the picture of her as like a 2-year-old in the stands for the
Olympics?
LeBron, yeah, like wait, was it LeBron or was it Jordan?
You're right. It was Jordan. Just
Jordan.
kidding.
Yeah.
Whoops,
it was like
no. There's another one. It was one of the track players or one of the track runners this year. Was with LeBron back in like 2004 as a kid.
So wild, dude. It's
her and Jordan is crazy. I mean, the Katie Ledecky. I had posted it to my Instagram story the other day. Like, I just love when Katie Ledecky like just beats the entire field by a pool length. Like, it's like, oh, here's everybody else who's literally the best in the world at this sport, and then she's just absolutely dominating them. And she's lost races this year. Like, I mean, obviously with swimming, it's always like the Aussies always have a great squad.
They really don't like us either, too.
I mean, look, I like that rivalry though a little bit. France swimmers have been putting on. I mean, that the one French swimmer's lighting it up, obviously at home this year. I think he's got 4 already. Simone's
Katie's
crazy though, to go back to that. And Katie is too, but like Simone is like, bro, she's different. Like,
that's a whole nother level. Yeah. Katie's got a gold, a silver, and a bronze this go around at the Olympics currently.
Well, and having the top 20 times ever in the 1500 is just insane. Like, literally, the record is her. It's it.
But what also is wild to me is they're talking about how, like, she's at the back end of her career. She's done. It's starting to wrap up for her. Bro, she's 27 years
I
old.
know.
She was born in 97. What do you mean her career is over?
They did that with Phelps last Olympics, and, like, they were
Yeah.
like, "Oh," because obviously he won 8 in '08 and broke the
Mhm.
record, and that was the whole, like, "Oh, what are you gonna do?" And I remember, I think 12 was in I don't remember if that was Rio or 16 was Rio, but, like, the next one, it might have been London, actually, but they were like, "Oh, he's gonna be washed. It's just, like, not gonna be the same, blah, 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 blah." He won, like, 6 gold medals. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, I
Yeah,
believe they're washed when I say they're washed.
dude, I agree. I'm trying to see. Rio was 2016.
Okay, and then so probably London, I think, was 2012.
2012. Hold on. Let's see. 2012 London. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So, dude, the Ledecky video that I always see too that blows my mind is she was in like a Got Milk ad, right? So they put a glass of chocolate milk, no bullshit, on her head, and she swam a full length of the pool, like with a
Wow.
snorkel, balancing that chocolate milk. It didn't spill the entire time.
That's crazy. That's like that.
Like gliding on water.
I am thoroughly upset my parents didn't like force me into a sport at age 1. And just was like, this is your personality now. You're
You
but it has to be a niche sport. Like put me in badminton or something like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like very
yeah.
niche, very unlikely that other kids are doing it anyway. Like,
I would
dude,
say
that would have been
you would have had better hoop dreams than me. I was
no.
definitely not making the NBA, but you got a little more height.
But even so, like
No,
me
but
at
you
six
were
one is so tiny compared to NBA players. Like that's not
yeah.
even close.
You
I
get
I got a funny story. This is so off topic, but I got a funny story for you. My one of my buddies, he played D3 ball. He's tall, like
yep.
I would say 6'9" probably. And so he was like in our school, he played center at high school, and then he went to York actually to play basketball. Had some knee trouble, so I don't think he ever really got to play much.
Uh-huh.
But obviously made a bunch of friends at college with a bunch of basketball guys. So sadly his mom passed away recently, so I went home to see him. That's actually when I saw you.
Yeah.
And we I walked in with all of his basketball buddies, and they're D3, so some of them are about my size height wise, obviously way more fit and athletic than me, but we're all about the same size. And so his future wife's family was also there, and I've never met them before. They all live out in California, and she, we said hi, and all the guys in front of me are all basketball players. So she comes to me and I'm like, "Hey, I'm Justin. Nice to meet you." And she's like, "Oh, how do you know Jake?" And I was like, "Oh, we went to high school together." And she's like, "Oh, cool. So where did you go and play basketball?" And I was like, "Ooh, didn't. I wasn't good enough." And she goes, "Oh, but you and Jake played in high school?" And I was like, "Ooh, also not good enough to make the high school team." And Jake comes around the corner and he goes, "He was good enough to play for the county league though." And she goes, "Oh, was that hard to get on?" I was like, "No, they accepted everybody." Literally found you a team if you wanted to play. You weren't told no.
It is humbling when you get somebody who can like really hoop because like
Yeah.
Justin is probably in that story. Like Justin is well, is better than me, but is not bad at basketball at all. Like Justin, if went to a random court, like you put him on the floor with anybody, you will not get embarrassed. You know what
I
I
don't know
mean?
about right now, dude.
All right. Well, at least when we were playing a few years ago,
We
you
were
would
playing a
still
lot.
not get
Yeah, we
embarrassed.
were
You have
playing
the
good.
potential to not be embarrassed on the court. Like you realize it pretty quick. Like I played, we had this friend Doug who played same deal. He played D3 ball and like he played pickup with us the one time, and you just realize how
You
quickly
just
like
yeah.
someone's better than you.
The
Like,
guy, you probably remember him. I think we've played with him a few times back at the old apartment where we had that half basketball court
yeah,
where I lived. There was a kid he was on the practice squad for UNF, and he would play with us sometimes. I know Tim played with him. I don't know if you did.
mhm,
But even him, like, he would just do things. And I was
yeah.
just like, see, and you're on the practice squad. Like, you also weren't good enough to make the team. And you're doing things that I'm just like, there's just levels to it. There's tiers to
Did,
it.
did you see the video of Donovan Mitchell and Gilly the Kid the other day?
No.
Gilly always like, and Gilly plays all the time, and so
Yeah.
like
But
they had him guard him,
come
and Donovan
on.
Mitchell just like is killing him. It's just
Yeah.
it's child's play. Like
You
even when
playing
he
with your
plays good
food.
defense,
Yeah.
like Donovan will just take this like one-legged step back three and just bury it. Like
Yeah.
he didn't even break. Gilly's fighting for his life, like sweating. Donovan Mitchell's just like in a like t-shirt and like flip-flops and just burying everything.
Yeah, it's like, bro, I haven't even warmed up yet. I'm not even a
Yeah.
little warm, you
I mean,
know?
he had sneakers on. He wasn't in full flip-flops. It's not that psycho. And I don't
Yeah.
know if the Cavs want to see him hooping in flip-flops. I think they might get a little bit of a heart attack there, but
Yeah.
especially post new contract. But we're not going to do a full seg on it because we talked Cavs a little bit last week with Evan Mobley, but Jared Allen signed a new deal with them as well, 3 years, 91 million. And so look, I mean, they bet that core has been together now. We talked a lot last week. Shout out to Chris Crawford and Sam Albuquerque for coming on. Appreciate the fill-in. And we talked a lot about Evan Mobley and how post that max, they need him to just like, we know what Donovan Mitchell is at this point. With Evan Mobley, you need him to kind of be the guy. But that with that contract getting locked up with him and Allen, like I think there's been a lot of calls to break them up when their numbers on the court together are actually pretty good. I think Mobley kind of plays better off that traditional center the way Jaren Jackson does down in Memphis. And so I think you kind of get that here with Jared Allen. Like I'm not as quick to break those two up as much as possible. I still really like, I don't know if they move him yet, but like Darius Garland is still like the one big Cavs question that lingers for me is like, what's going on here now?
Yeah, I think they're one of those teams that I just want to see. I guess the way to categorize them in my head is they're one of the ones that are ready to take it to the next step in prove it mode, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, they have to be in
Right,
prove it mode
right.
because like it's at the point like we're
But
at years for them. Like this core,
Yeah.
we're in year 3 of this now, essentially.
But I would
Like,
say
take the
even
leap.
I don't know how to explain it. Like prove it mode to me was like the last year. Now you're like above prove it mode. Like now you got to be like in that next tier.
Yeah.
Which by the way, I did just happen to pull this up. NBA.com did a power rankings of the East.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it should be any surprise. Boston, New York, Sixers, Pacers are 4, Bucks are 5. I'm trying to see then Cavs. Okay, so Cavs are number 6. But I think if the Cavs are 6 in the East in going into the playoffs, I'm kind of disappointed.
They're super disappointed, and I don't
Yeah.
think that's even given Orlando enough credit on their
Yep.
heels. Like there's now, granted, I could see them jumping Indy too necessarily. You have to give Indy made the conference finals last year. You
Yeah.
have to give them that over you right now, especially when they just got, kind of demolished, which to be fair, Boston kind of demolished everybody. So, and honestly, given injuries they had like post game too, I thought they kind of held their own a little bit. But you're right. Like this core they need to take that step. Like I need to be talking about the Cavs to be happy with this group the way I'm talking about the Sixers and the Knicks, where it's like you have to view them as a true legitimate threat to Boston.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we just are there right now. Like there's certain, because if not, I don't think if it works this year, that's when you start to ask the greater questions about your core in general. That's when it's like, hey,
And
are the young guys going to develop? Is
Mhm.
Donovan Mitchell going to be past his prime by the time we need to reset here a little bit? Like, what do we want to do?
Yeah, and surprisingly, like they definitely as a younger core, their pace is really slow compared to the league. They're 24th in the league for pace. Their offense was middle of the pack. They were a
Mhm.
little on the higher end, better wise on the defensive rating side of things. So, like, you know, maybe you do pick up the pace a little bit, and now that you have the core, you work on how you want to approach the offensive side of things a little more too. But yeah, I think Cavs being 6 on this list to me doesn't reflect the roster. To me, it reflects everything that happened around them in the Eastern Conference in terms of all the moves the Sixers did, all the moves the Knicks did, the Celtics being what they are, Pacers, like you said, you got to give them the credit for being where they were last year. Bucks, you imagine they're healthy and they did Patrick Beverly and Beasley are gone, but really for the most part, still bringing back what we know. Um, and last year their defensive rating was 19th in the league. You imagine with health that goes back up, and so then the Bucks are right back in it at that point.
Yeah, the Bucks are in a weird spot too. Like,
Yeah,
it's hard for me to be down on the Bucks with Giannis, but I'm
right.
also like, I have a real gross taste in my mouth from the Bucks season last year.
Yep.
And I still have Doc Rivers coaching that squad. So, you know how we don't need to beat that drum for the 300th time. But
I know.
yeah, I think we know what it is there. Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Player FM, anywhere you get your podcasts, you can find us.
And you can always hit us up on YouTube. Sorry, I saw a comment from somebody's I saw a comment from somebody that left us a comment on YouTube. It's not the nicest comment.
Tight.
But you can always follow us there, and like we said, leave us a review, and we will make sure to read it on the show and address it. It's nothing crazy. Apparently, in the last episode we posted, at one point there was a glitch in someone's audio, and the way that Vlad Father decided to let us know about it wasn't the nicest way.
Oh, is that it? Oh, Sam is bald and beautiful. He knows what it is.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't gonna put the business out.
Sam is bald. I think if you call Sam bald, he'd be like, "Well, yeah, dude, I have no hair." He willingly let that go a long time ago. Sam is one of the most fashionable people I know, and I swear I'm not just saying that because his audio went bad for a second last episode, but like legit one of the swaggiest people you'll ever meet. And now a word from our sponsors.
So obviously, the Olympics are going on. We've already talked a little bit about it, but didn't get necessarily into the. I keep almost saying NBA Olympics.
No.
The basketball side of Olympics. Obviously, Team USA is heavily favored, and I feel like in the first few games that have actually mattered, have really made that known. Obviously, the talking points that are worth mentioning off of at least the first few games is the fact that very, very big name NBA stars are sitting for entire games with Steve Kerr, although everybody seems chill about it. But Jason Tatum sat first game, Joel Embiid sat the next. Steve Kerr's kind of like addressed it, being like, look, if it gets us the gold, if it works, who cares? I know KD, I think, was mentioned was going to move back to a 6-man role in this game coming up for us. And he kind of was like, it doesn't matter who starts. Tell that to James Harden. But that's like,
What a random stray.
Remember? No, that's not a stray. That was him being all, remember him and Westbrook, they had that whole thing with the Clippers last year where it's like one of them's got to sit.
I know, but no, I'm just saying we're talking about Team USA. How do we get there?
I'm gonna take my shots at Harden when I can.
All right.
But yeah, KD talking about it, says it doesn't really matter who starts, it's about who finishes the game. And to Kerr's point is like, why are you gonna put the 5 best basketball players on the court at the same time when you can stagger it and always have at least 2 or 3 of the best NBA players ever, in theory, out there?
Yeah, I think it's encouraging for Team USA the way that they've won their first 2 games against Serbia and against South Sudan. I mean, they had some blips in the first half against Serbia where it got close, and then they tightened up and completely took over the second half. So I think you're really encouraged about that. Obviously, the non-Jokic minutes, they completely dominated. And I think I look at this, and because a lot of what you just talked about, where it's like, look, Embiid has not played and looked bad at points. Tatum didn't play the entire first game. Steph Curry has not really hit anything at this point. Like, his shot has not been falling at all, and they're still rolling. Like, because LeBron's been playing phenomenal.
Because LeBron
has hit every shot in the world so far.
There was a point, games, I think against South Sudan. I think it was them. I can't remember which one it was, but there was a point where KD and I think it was Booker were like perfect from the field. Like, they had it
against Serbia. Yeah, KD was perfect. KD started 8 for 8 in that game, and it was like all behind the arc.
Yeah, all behind the arc, just couldn't miss. Ant's playing well. Booker's defense is phenomenal. Bam had an amazing game off the bench. I think he led the team in points with like 18 last game. Like, it almost, this sounds so bad, but it almost makes me disinterested in it because it's so like not a thing for the USA right now.
No, but see, I like, and they're going to be playing as we record this. They got to beat Puerto Rico by 5 points to guarantee the number 1 overall seed for the rest of the way. They're going to advance. Like, they've already got that locked up.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
The bigger game to watch in Group C is Serbia, South Sudan.
Yeah.
See who will come out of that group, whether it's Jokic, whether it's this incredibly feisty South Sudan squad that, massive credit to Luol Deng for putting together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that like there's a little bit of a coast element to it, but I'm not coasting right now when I've seen how some of these other squads are playing. Like you've got Canada who's 3-0 right now,
Yep.
and they've had some struggles on their own. Like Jamal Murray's played pretty
Canada
bad these Olympics.
Canada, by the way, I was reading this. So USA basketball has 213 points and a point difference of 43. Germany ended, I think they have better figures. They have 268 points and a plus 47 difference. So I think Canada might be able to get past Germany mathematically, depending on how the games go.
Mhm.
But again, for the most part, I think USA is going to be totally fine, and
Yeah.
it will be fine. But yeah, you point out like there are players that really shine through. I know Dennis Schroeder was one I was reading about. Germany, he had a 26-point game the other day. Like these guys take it super serious. It's not that they're not taking it serious. It's just that Team USA's team is so loaded, dude.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm not sleeping on Canada or Germany. I mean, Germany demolished France the other day. I mean,
Yeah.
it looked like, it was alarming how quickly they demolished France, honestly. That was also Winston Churchill in 1940. But no, listen, they're locked in. Dennis Schroeder, the Wagner brothers have a ton of
Do you
chemistry. I
see
mean,
what one of the
international
brothers?
Franz has been on different times since Euros last year. Like, I mean, the Yamo and Wemby switching hands midair, like he's and I mean, if you're an Orlando fan, you love to see it too, because your
Yeah.
last memory of Franz was the Game 7 struggles against Cleveland, and so to see him come out on Euro stage, it's like, hey, listen, I'm here, I'm ready to ball, and again, that's a France team with Wemby, with Nick Batum. Like, there's a ton of NBA talent on that
Yes.
roster, and France is 2-1 on their own. Like, they're fine, but they came in and demolished France. Like, it was. They, to me, I would argue, have looked the most impressive. Like they look complete and ready to go. Obviously, I will always give the US the benefit of the doubt there,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm kind of right now, if I'm power ranking this, I'm going USA, Germany, Canada as my 1, 2, 3 right now.
And I feel like that's similar to where we felt it was. Holy moly. Sorry. I feel like that was similar to where we felt it was at the beginning when we were kind of talking about the teams and where they ended up in Group C and all that stuff. We kind of talked
Right.
about that. I feel like those are the most. So the reason I said holy moly is I just pulled up to see what the spread is for USA Puerto Rico.
Oh God, that's a lot. I'd imagine Puerto Rico's
35.5.
Yeah, like Puerto Rico was last in the group. I mean, South Sudan beat them the other night. Serbia's beat. I mean, coming out of Group C is going to be USA and Serbia or South Sudan. Like it'll be the winner of that because there's 8 teams total that advance.
Yep.
And then so depending on again how the points play out, the loser Serbia, South Sudan could get in. Germany is going to get in. France is going to get in pending something crazy with Brazil. Or no, they're just kidding. They're done. I'm kidding. France is qualified. They're done playing. So Germany and France have qualified. Brazil is also qualified off just their point differential right now. They went 1 and 2 in Group B. But to come out of that group is good for them. Canada and Australia have qualified. I think Greece can still get in. They need, again, that kind of depends on how Serbia and South Sudan plays out. I don't think there's a route for Spain. I think Greece has the tiebreaker over Spain right now. But I mean, yeah, that Group A is kind of a group of death at well. So I think, Australia, even with being 1 and 2, you got to be really happy just to come out of that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 8 spots. 6 of them are clinched right now with the USA, Germany, France, Brazil, Canada, and Australia. And then so Greece, Spain, and Serbia and South Sudan are alive. Puerto Rico is eliminated and Japan is eliminated.
So the looking forward side of things, August 6th is when all the quarterfinals will happen. August 8th, then semifinals, and then August 10th will be bronze medal game, and we'll go from there. I believe maybe they have both. I think that August 10th might be both games actually. Now that I'm looking at it, it looks like it is. Yeah. So the early game will be bronze on August 10th, and then the gold medal game.
Yeah. The next important, so games are happening today as we're recording. Yes. Like that'll be the last of the group play, but it's basically, because this will drop and you'll have this before then. Monday the 5th, Wednesday the 7th are the 2 next big days. All the quarterfinal games are that day. All the semis are that day. And then on Saturday will be our championships, our third medal game and our finals. So
Who
We'll
do you
see how
think?
it goes.
Who do you think at the end of all this will be said to be like the? I mean, is it just going to be LeBron that'll be like the guy for Team USA, or do you think it goes like a Kevin Durant side? I know Anthony Edwards has been talked about a lot. Bam had the highest scoring point.
Bam was great in game 2, and I think
Yeah,
when I look at whose stock has risen from this a collection of talent, obviously you gotta bring LeBron there. I do think
sure.
KD, man, KD
Yep.
is absolutely lit on fire. You're right. I think Ant has definitely shown out. I think Anthony Davis's stock
True.
overall is
Yes, I haven't
probably
mentioned him,
like
but
up
yes,
from this. Definitely Bam as well. On a way like less involved side, like more sneaky, I guess. I think Drew Holiday and Devin Booker both have had good campaigns here as
yes,
well.
yes.
The ones who are down for are Hallie, Joel, and Tatum so far.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of agree, and it's a bummer like that so many people got so worked up at the fact that Tatum didn't play. Like,
Mhm.
I felt like that was all people talked about on
Well,
social media. It's like,
because
"Look,
it's just
man."
crazy. It's like it's
I
wild
agree.
because he's a defending champion and a finals MVP and a guy that we routinely have in the
Yeah.
conversation for maybe top 5 players in the NBA right now. So it's a little crazy that he can't get on the floor at all.
Well, yeah, it's like you just had the what, the MVP and then the former MVP
Not
and
and I'm just kidding. Jaylen Brown won Finals MVP, but like
oh, right, yeah, yeah.
regardless, like he's the number. I what I'm trying to say though is that Tatum is probably the number 1 guy on the Celtics roster.
Yeah, yes, definitely,
So
yeah, so
yeah, it's definitely a weird space for them, and we'll see. Obviously, and you know me as a homer, like obviously I hope the Embiid situation figures itself out. Like I got to get slandered in the international season now too. Like I
yeah,
can't
but
catch a break over here.
if he's not playing as much and he's resting those knees, I'm okay with it for the season.
Yeah, low key. All right. Who's balling? Who's falling? Our NBA version of the stock market. We always like to start with the good before the bad. So, Justin, I'll start with you this week. Who is balling?
I am doing a double ballin', but I'll do one first. I'm going with Chase Budinger, who, as you may know, a former pro basketball player. I had forgot he existed as a human, but he is officially back in the news
Yeah.
because he's at the Olympics and not for the NBA. He's actually playing beach volleyball with Miles Evans is his USA partner now. Forgive me for not knowing if they've started the beach volleyball stuff on his side of things yet. But if you didn't know, Chase grew up in Cali playing basketball and volleyball. Ultimately, decided to do basketball. Good move, probably more money, I would assume. Not to like slander volleyball, but like
Definitely.
that just is
Yeah.
what it
No,
is.
go to the NBA.
Yeah, so he did his NBA thing, and now he's doing his volleyball thing. Like, go for it,
Yeah,
dude.
it's a hell of a reinvention, and just to be able, like, to be NBA quality, and I think obviously a lot of the athleticism skills
Sure.
with
Yeah.
NBA and basketball overlap with volleyball. Like,
Right.
genuinely, the best volleyball players are tall and can jump really high. So, like, that natural part of it is there, but that's
Yeah.
still like, I don't think every NBA player is exactly going to be able to transition to play beach volleyball on an Olympic level. So yeah, this is insanely impressive to make Team USA and just a really cool reinvention. Like shout out to him for getting out there and balling.
And all I see now in terms of I'm trying to see if volleyball played, it just showing me some featured events. It looked like USA won. I just can't tell if he was involved for that one.
Yeah.
So all right.
All
Looks
right.
like
Well, if you're gonna double ball, then I guess I'll fall first only because and do a weird backwards only because it's Olympic theme. And so I'm gonna go with Hashimura for Fallin this week. Who just had a pretty brutal Olympic campaign. We mentioned Japan going 0-3, but you know, both of these kind of not his fault. You know, he had to sit out the last games. He had a calf injury, so just pretty brutal not being able to just play off that. But I don't know if you saw the foul that got him tossed against France. He fouled Rudy Gobert, and a lot of the FIBA purists go, "Hey, we love these rules. It's tough for ball," and it is one of the most offensive ejections I have ever seen. Like, I cannot believe that he got tossed from an Olympic game like that. I mean, look, I know the games are in Paris, but like, you want to talk about fueling some conspiracy there real quick. But yeah, probably an Olympics to forget for him, unfortunately.
yeah, now he's ruled out with an injury. I think you might have mentioned that, but yeah, man, it's it is what it is. It's tough, but not everybody goes to the Olympics and then has a good time. I guess
Yeah.
is the way to leave. There can only be one winner. There can only be one maybe 3 if you want to look at all the medalings of things, but there can only be 3 success stories that stand on the podium at the end of the day.
Yeah, no doubt.
So,
All right, who is balling again for you this week?
second Ballin is a very interesting thing that Adam Silver told the Associated Press on Friday. He said the NBA is having and has had discussions about starting its own basketball league in Europe, which obviously fueled a ton of questions. He said the NBA is considering the next move on the continent and is weighing whether or not it would be a league or a potential like annual tournament style thing. So which obviously got people talking about FIBA and some of the other stuff that goes on over there. The NBA said it would potentially involve them, maybe even working with them. Nothing obviously has been confirmed. It's all just kind of brainstorming at the moment, but could be potentially really fun. And for NBA fans, if there's something going on overseas, might be a good reason to go travel and like see some ball and new locations.
Yeah, that latter point, I'm with you on 100%. I think a tournament would work there. Like, I don't think you're going to be able to knock EuroLeague out. I think they've got a pretty good thing going. A lot of these squads are established at this point.
Yep.
There's culture, there's fan involvement. Like,
Yep.
I don't think you should go in looking to knock the house down. But definitely a tournament over there. I mean, clearly, like, and that's just again more the international game. Like, I would love for them to have, and maybe if this is the problem with you can't really do it with in-season tournament because it's so much. Like, it's so many regular season games that it's just not practical to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But, maybe for the final, you start having these, I think of the way the Champions League has finals all over the place. Like, you can have one in Europe, you can have one in Australia, you can have one in, in Turkey or in China or in any of these other countries that, love and consume basketball. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a ton of opportunity there for sure. And I think Adam Silver is always going to be trying to, try to get that going, maximize on that market for sure.
I dig it.
All right, Ballin for me it's a double dose of Kobe news. First in LA, we got the unveiling of the second Kobe statue. This is one in him and Gianna. It's everybody knows that there's that game that they went to, the Lakers game with them courtside. Sitting next to each other, talking plays, diagramming, all that stuff. There's like 7 viral clips from that night. But so it's a statue of them there. It was really well done by the artist. I think that's a great tribute for sure. So credit to the Lakers for getting that done, putting that in downtown LA, and continuing to honor the legacy. The other part of it is Kobe's Staples Center locker, believe it or not, is actually up for auction. And it just sold for a record $2.9 million. So again, this is the locker that Kobe used for a large portion of his career. In the Staples Center, it's the full thing. Like, you get the locker, it's cut out of the wall, like, all 3 panels or whatever. But yeah, $2.9 million. They said this is a record.
I'm trying to see. It was sold at auction. I'm trying to see because I've been locked in on King of Collectibles on Netflix. Which is Golden Auctions, which if you haven't watched that and you like sports or you like just like cards and stuff like that, it is such a cool show to watch. It wouldn't surprise me if Ken, who is the owner of Golden Auctions, was the one that was able to get this thing to go, because they sell some crazy stuff. They sold the flu game shoes. They had that was like a big part of the show in season 2 was they got those. And he's going after this very rare baseball card too, but
the Wagner one, the Honus Wagner,
that is one. So he finds 3 of them. The owner of the Arizona, I want to say Diamondbacks, has a graded 9, which is like the highest graded one. And he said he'll never sell it. And he said he told his son that he's gonna, like, if he passes away or when he passes away, he's gonna give it to his son. His son said, "I'm never gonna sell it either." So like, Ken was like, I gotta find a way to get it, because like you're sitting on like 30 million there or something like that.
For those who don't know the story, I'm more impressed that it's a 9 just because again that card I think came out in like 1908, so just off like degradation and it being old. But so like they, baseball, OG baseball cards were in tobacco cards or in packs of cigarettes, and Honus Wagner is one of the I almost said Honus Wagner just because it's spelled the same and I'm in NBA mode. Honus Wagner is one of the OG Hall of Famers, like he's a Pittsburgh Pirates legend. And somehow he just had the wherewithal to know ahead of the game that like, hey, I think smoking is kind of bad for you actually. And so he pulled his tobacco cards. He said, I don't want to do this. Like, actually, I'm good on this. So, like, a bunch got printed. So that's why they're out there. But most of them got destroyed. So if you're able to find one, like, I was heavy into baseball cards at one point. But yeah, it's pretty, like, that's known as the Holy Grail, pretty much.
He had found somebody that had that card graded a 5.
Yeah.
And they were sitting, it's literally in the show, so I don't want to give too much more away about it because I feel like I'm ruining it for people. But like, he literally offers this dude $2 million just sitting on a rooftop. You can have $2 million in your bank account right now. And he said no.
That's
And
crazy.
he said no. Like,
Yeah.
wow. I don't think, listen, I get it. Everyone's got their price. And you know, I'm not into collecting as much as that, as much as a lot of people are. But like, I'm willing to part with a lot of things for $2 million.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's all values in the beholder. Like, it's like any other collectible. Collectibles are the value is what you make of it. It's something is more valuable to somebody else. And, you know,
like to me is like, yo, if I had that 9, I'd be like, yo, hit me up, hook me up with the dude that's got a 5, and he gives me $2 or $3 million, and I'm gonna hand him, and we're just gonna swap. Like, give me 3 mil and we'll swap. You have the 9, I have the 5. I still have one. I just need 3 mil. Like, yeah, let's do something like that.
I hear you. This Kobe locker, by the way, was done his whole career. He used it from 03 to 2016 when he retired. It initially was at ESPN said it was bidding at around 750,000, but then it just got 4 people really wanted this and bid it up to 2.9 million. So
I did see that a part of the part of the sales are going to go directly to the LA Lakers Youth Foundation. Good. So that's kind of good. Feel good stuff on top of it. That's also what the owner of the Diamondbacks said. He said the only time he sells cards is if he can get a better graded one, he'll sell his lower graded one. And any money he makes off that goes right to a charity. Like, he doesn't keep that cash.
Yeah.
So
I think that I'd have to look this up. I think the most valuable NBA card is the Michael Jordan Fleer one. It's from like 1983. It's one of his rookie cards, but I'm pretty sure which obviously, like, that's a little more common just because it was made in 1980 and not 1906 or whatever the Honus Wagner T206 came out. But yeah, that's definitely I know it's a lot of people's holy grails. Like, some of the older guys too, like the Wilts and the Bill Russells and the.
There was a Wemby, King. Yeah, here it is. Hold on, I can give you the exact thing.
My bad. Go ahead.
There was a Wemby card that was actually like on a live. You know how they do the breaks? They do the card breaks. There was a Wemby one that was signed. It was like the first one he signed. I guess they put number 1 on it to like make it known it's a thing. And so that sold, and that is on that show, King of Collectibles. And the dude, like, imagine you join one of those breaks. You paid $16 for a Spurs side of the break, and next thing you know, you just made $90,000 or something. Like, that's so cool.
They had they're doing a lot of one-on-ones now, and I think those are coming. Like, there's one. It's a 3-peat autograph card, and it's MJ, Kobe, and LeBron, and so, like, obviously that's stupid amounts of money just because they're all signed together. Like, it's that combo is such a special group of players. We could do a whole podcast about sports cards. Like, I am a dork about that for sure. And I'm not actively collecting the way I used to. I think my fiance would have a heart attack if I started actively collecting again.
I've got some buddies that are actively collecting again, and I'm just like, I couldn't, man. I would be so stressed.
It's a fun hobby. I really do, and I appreciated the community with it as well. But let's play some Immaculate Grid, shall we? It's been a little bit. We've been
I dig it.
We've been missing it for sure. And again, watch the Immaculate Grids on YouTube. If you want to see a video version, if you want to see all our guesses play along live. For the podcast listeners this week, our columns from left to right, we got the Atlanta Hawks, we got first round draft pick, and we got 5 assists per game per season. Our rows from top to bottom, we got the Warriors, we got the Pacers, and we got All-Star. So a few of these will be pretty easy. I am glad we got 3 teams in there, and they're a little less common in terms of like Atlanta and the Pacers, for example. Even though I do think I have answers for all these already.
I do. I think I do too.
Yeah. I mean, we could, in theory, speed run this and do another one.
We could try if you want. So,
that's up to you. I mean,
anything Hawks, I immediately go Jeff Teague. I'm pretty sure Jeff Teague works Pacers.
Yes, he works for
Yeah.
Pacers. Yeah, I was gonna say he doesn't work for Warriors. He definitely works for
Oh,
Pacers.
Zaza works here too.
Zaza does work there. You're right. That was not my first guess. Was the Sadiq Bey works for Warriors and Hawks? They just made that trade last year, so that'll be high probably.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of there's somebody I thought from that one Hawks team. I guess Teague was on that. Never mind. For Pacers and Hawks, I feel like there's another one I'm missing too. I'm trying to think of it. But
Pacers,
I know
Hawks. Okay. Did Evan Turner?
Yes. Actually, yeah, Evan Turner works there. He definitely played for the Pacers because he played for the Pacers post.
Yeah,
he played for the Pacers post Sixers. They traded him to Indy, and then he played for the
Thad
Hawks
went
at the end of
together,
his
right?
career.
Him and Thad went at the same time.
They didn't go the same places, but they went at the same time. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Turner
they were the
might
last
be...
guys from the process. Evan Turner, I think, would be low if you did that for Indy and Atlanta. I think that'd definitely be really low, lower than Teague for sure. Like Teague was a starter.
Let's do Evan Turner. 2%,
Nice,
baby.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely a good one there. Let's do Zaza up top. I think Zaza will be low. Yeah, all right.
Zaza Pachulia, 15%. Okay. What?
Right. More than I thought.
Yeah.
All right. So first round pick is where you can get creative because they don't have to be drafted by them.
Yeah, like
so
Wiggins would obviously work.
Yeah, Wiggins works for Golden State. I mean, there's a bunch low key that work for Golden State. So like, I want to think of like who was going to be the lowest there.
Yeah, who was the guy? He was. I want to say. Well, he was on the Wizards.
And Otto Porter.
Yes.
Yeah. Otto Porter would be low. I would do it. He was only there on the team recently. Yeah, he was number 3 overall, I think, by Washington in maybe like 2012, 2013.
Junior, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Otto Porter Jr. Yep. For sure. Nice. Okay.
Baby.
Good one. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what I mean. You get somebody low like that. You got to get the role players who were there, and like Otto Porter played well for them. Like you got title there.
So what do you think about Victor Oladipo for Pacers?
As the first round draft pick?
Yeah.
I think that's going to be high as hell. He was awesome. He was awesome on the Pacers. That's like the best season of his career.
Do we also know if he had 5 assists per game? Because that also could potentially.
Yes, I definitely know he had 5 assists per game.
What about
the Pacers?
Now, we did say Teague. Do we know if Teague had 5?
He might. I'm not 100%.
Oh, that one feels risky.
Teague feels risky. I know George Hill would work there.
Oh, George Hill would work there. Yeah,
because he was on all those teams that were good. But I mean, Teague was a point guard though. Teague probably works. Like there's you got to be a pretty average point guard to have 5 assists per game per season. And Jeff Teague was an above average point guard and still not like he wasn't playing a bench role in Indy either. Like he was still pretty, in the peak of his career.
Should we go? Should we try Teague at 5 assists?
I'm fine trying Teague there.
Teague, baby, 1%. Nice, okay. Holy moly, that's good. Okay. I'm trying to think.
I gotta look it up now.
Did DeLon Wright play for the Pacers? And if so, was he a first round draft pick? No. Who also went from the Heat to the Pacers? There was another player that went with. I feel like he played at the same time as Victor Oladipo.
I'm trying to think.
Oh,
you're not talking about TJ Warren, are you? He didn't go from the Heat, but I know.
No, maybe TJ Warren probably would work there. No, I feel like there was a point guard.
Wow, Jeff Teague only played 1 season in Indy. How about that?
Wow, I thought
he averaged 7.8 assists though, so we were well good on 5. 15.3 and 7.8 assists for Jeff Teague that year.
I'm trying to think. Pacers. I'm trying to think of like the one-off trades where they brought people in.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are some like more common guys who would work for Indy there. Like Evan Turner would have worked there. I mean, you mentioned him earlier. Thad Young played for Indy at some point. He was definitely a first round.
Oh yeah, Thad Young would work there.
I mean, there's a bunch we can run down. I mean, McDermott was a first round pick. Oladipo was a first round pick. Paul George was a first round pick. Like we're not. It's just trying to find that balance of like the role player, right? Or somebody that got
the one that's kind of niche. Yeah.
Because I mean, a few
Doug though, McDermott might be the move.
See, I think McDermott gets associated with them because he's a white shooter.
Yeah,
Everybody
but, like,
remembers the
do
white
people do
shooters.
people do people think of Doug McDermott at all anymore? Like, I forgot he was even in the NBA.
Uh, Probably not, but, like, he was a popular college
He
player.
was popular, yeah.
And so that's where I feel and he's got a good nickname with Dougie McBuckets. Like, I feel like that's why
Mhm.
people always, like,
Easy, yeah.
he's not Corver levels of where, like, Corver's the white shooting god, but, I mean, Doug was for sure.
Pacers and first round pick,
I
let's
mean, we could
see.
do Doug or Thad both work. Like, I think both of them are gonna be pretty low.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. You wanna alright, which one do you wanna do? Thad?
I do like Thad a lot. Yeah,
Just
that
because it's a Sixers connection.
yeah, I mean, kind of. Nice, okay, that's not
.2%.
well, because it wasn't
Wow.
like Thad was well into his career by the time he went to Indy.
Yeah,
Like, that's my thing is whenever it's first round draft pick and it's a team, I always try to go for guys who had good
yeah.
NBA careers. It's just you don't associate them first. Like, I don't know. Who do well, no, we're too biased here. Never mind. I mean, I associate Thad Young the most with the Sixers, and I'm just genuinely not saying that because I'm here. Um, because he's bounced around a lot since then. He did have 3 years in Indy. I just pulled him up.
Wow. Yeah, yeah,
But
no, and I remember him in Ian like, he had a good time in Indy, like, it was
yeah. I
him
mean,
and,
he's had a
him up.
long career now at this point. Like, Thad Young got drafted in 2007. Like, he's
Mhm.
still playing. It's not like he's flaming out of the league. Like, he's still getting contracts.
Now, do the 5 assists per game, do we remember if that has to be with the team?
It does. That one
Okay.
does for sure. So,
So,
I
like, a
mean, the
Chris
obvious
Paul
ones
wouldn't work?
dude, did he have 5 a game last year? Like,
No oh, maybe. I just assumed he didn't, but
I'm trying to I mean, he was playing bench minutes, so it's hard, but I feel like Chris Paul gets, like, 5 assists by accident.
I mean, yeah, but
And
he was playing
he started for portions of the year, like
but, yeah, but you're behind Curry, like, I don't
no, I
know.
hear you, but, like,
If you wanna risk it, I'm down, I just feel like
alright, we'll come back to that.
okay.
Alright. Hawks All-Star, first round draft pick All-Star, 5 assists per game per season. I mean, who's the most obscure, like, first round pick? Actually, you know what, dude? Dude, Gordon Hayward for first round pick and All-Star. We started the show with him. Let's bring it back to grid. That's gotta be the first round draft pick All-Star.
That's gonna be so low, yep.
Yeah. Listen, he's only got one for hey, listen, he's
Yeah,
only got one of them.
I
So
know, I know.
shout out to Gordon. 5 assists per game per season All-Star's pretty easy. I mean, you could do Chris Paul there for sure, and it works. You could do
Yeah.
Harden, you could do Westbrook, you could do John Wall, you could do Bradley Beal, you could do name a successful
You
point guard.
you
You could do
wanna who
Bron,
do you
you could
oh, man, who do you wanna do?
not LeBron.
No.
Um,
I feel like Beal would be pretty low.
I think Beal would be pretty low too. Yeah, I mean, I think Beal because like I don't associate him. I mean, he's a shooting guard, you know. I think people
Yeah.
would associate him with that, but
Point zero
dude,
nine
that
percent
I think that is the lowest guess we've ever gotten on any.
Yeah, I think that's
Like
really low.
that's wow, wow. Okay. And I mean, look, there's a lot of choices there, so I get it.
Yeah.
I did not in a billion years think it'd be that low. That's crazy. All right, Hawks and All-Star. I mean, the obvious one is Dominique Wilkins, like he's Mr. Atlanta.
Mhm.
Um, a few others that work, because that it has to be for them, right? Like you had to have been an All-Star for that team.
I assume so.
I think so as well. Let's just be safe. I'm from that Hawks team that was on the ECF. Or not or that was the number 1 seed. I don't remember if they made the ECF or not. I feel like they did, but they were the number 1 seed. I know Al Horford was an all-star that at least one of those years in Atlanta. I'm pretty sure Paul Millsap was an all-star in Atlanta. I don't think Corver was. I don't think Damari Carroll was. But yeah, I mean, those are the other. Corver actually might have been. Shoot. I don't
Was
trust
he
it enough
ever
to
an
believe.
all-star? I don't
He might have been 1 year in Atlanta, but I don't know if I'm about to risk it on it.
yeah.
Where I know Horford and Millsap were at one point, and Dominique too, obviously.
And I feel like Millsap might be less just because Al Horford's
Me
still
too.
in the league.
Oh, and Al Horford just won a title too. Like,
yeah.
I think Millsap will definitely be less.
Oh, that didn't pull it up?
2 L's.
Ah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Paul. 3%. Wow.
Okay.
Look at that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that makes sense. I would be
Because
curious.
people are probably doing like Trey Young and
Oh yeah,
stuff like.
right. Yeah, Trey Young, right? The current one. That would
And
make sense.
Did Teague and or Schroeder ever make it?
Schroeder didn't for sure. Kyle Korver was an all-star with
He was?
Atlanta in 2014 and 2015. He was that year.
Okay.
Let me check. Yeah, Millsap was a few times actually. Millsap was 4-time all-star, all with Atlanta. And Horford is let me see, I'm pulling this up. Horford's a 5-time all-star, 2 with Atlanta, actually 4 with Atlanta, and 1 with Boston in 2017, 2018.
Wow.
Who else do we? Oh, I'm looking at Sharif Abdur-Rahim. We've used him before. But he might have been because he was really good with Vancouver for a little bit. He was still kind of in his prime with Atlanta. Yeah, okay, he had 1 with Atlanta. That would have worked. 20102 he was. Okay. So 5 assists per game of the Warriors. I mean, Steph is the obvious one. God, they have so many. I know he won't work because he coached there, but Mark Jackson, if he had played there, would have probably worked.
Do we know? Okay, there's a player, and I can't catch his name right now. I'm fairly confident he played for the Warriors, and then he might be on the Jazz now. Last name starts with a C. He played for the Jazz at one point.
Point guard?
Collison? No.
Oh, no. Darren Collison played for did he play for the Warriors? I know he played for like the Lakers and the Pels and
maybe not the Warriors. I'm trying to I remember somebody on the Warriors.
Dude, know who else we haven't mentioned at all? And we keep talking about all these guards. Draymond works.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Dre definitely is at 5.
Should we just do Dre?
I kind of think, yeah, let's do it. It's a guard.
Okay.
I'm gonna look up Chris Paul afterwards too. I want to know if he had it.
Not Gray. Dre.
I know you like Grayson Allen, but
I'm just trying to put him in. All right, there we go. Boom. Nice. 31 rarity score. My Lord.
Is what I am talking about. Yeah, Dre had, let me pull this up.
Dre
had over 7 assists, like multiple. Dre had 8.9 in 2020. Damn. Like,
Mark Jackson did work, like you were saying.
For Indy, I knew he would. I just didn't know if he for. All right, so most popular on the grid for everybody. For Warriors and Hawks, Kent Bazemore. I love that Kent Bazemore is still number 1 for that. That really warms my heart. Steph was actually number 1 for first-round draft pick and for 5 per game per season for the Warriors. Pacers and Hawks was our boy Jeff Teague. First-round draft pick for the Pacers, Reggie Miller. 5 assists per game per season for the Pacers, Mark Jackson. Hawks all-star, no surprise, Dominique Wilkins. First-round draft pick, all-star LeBron. And for all-star 5 per game per season, John Stockton, actually. So Utah delegation, they're going hard. Hawks and Pacers, lowest percentage there at 41%.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So to recap our grid one last time. Oh, Chris Paul worked, by the way, for that corner. We'd have been safe.
Did he really?
Yeah,
okay.
He did. I'm surprised a little bit in the limited minutes as well.
I bet he might have been lower than Draymond.
Yeah, probably. Honestly.
We would have been able to get that lower.
That's fine.
Crazy.
Like, what a score. To recap our grid for Warriors and Hawks, he put Zaza Pachulia. Warriors first-round draft pick, Otto Porter Jr. Warriors 5 assists per game per season, Draymond Green. Pacers and Hawks, Evan Turner. Pacers first-round draft pick, Thaddeus Young. Pacers 5 assists per game per season, Jeff Teague. Hawks all-star, Paul Millsap. First-round draft pick, all-star, Gordon Hayward. And our all-time lowest guess, they bumped it up to 0.1%. I'm a little annoyed that it's not 0.09%.
Yeah, what?
YouTube listeners.
Did we make it point?
I think so. So YouTube listeners, y'all got to go back and watch the proof of that. But for all-star and 5 assists per game per season, Bradley Beal. A 9 for 9. Good to be back playing the grid as always. Damn. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Driving Dish NBA podcast. We appreciate you all. This was like our mini summer break too. So we will we'll be a little more consistent with these episodes coming out here. Justin actually got promoted too. We probably should have started with that. So let's clap it up here for my podcast co-host. Big news on that front.
We jumped in the deep end, man. We're good. We're good. Yeah, we're back on track now. I had to just like hunker down for like 7 days and just figure it out.
Real life comes in. You were on vacation for a little bit. Now you got a hurricane barreling towards Jacksonville. So hopefully that stays light for your sanity.
By the way, did get like 4 emails and texts while we were doing this podcast being like, hey, looks like it's actually happening. We need to start to hunker down and get the weather team together. And
well, hey, I'm really glad we got this podcast, and I'm not gonna lie, I was a little worried about that for a sec. So
yeah,
you know, listen, let's hope it doesn't get flooded out. And
if you're listening to this starting Sunday at 6 p.m., apparently that's when I'm going to be in full on hurricane mode or storm mode. So yeah, feel free to check in.
okay, we'll see how it goes.
It's gonna be like, hey Justin, how's it going? It's a little windy here.
We will see you guys next time.
Oh, I got it.